Welcome everyone to My Weight World TV. I'm Dr. Brenda, MD. Today we're going to learn about how to read a nutritional label with Janice Baker, our registered dietitian. Welcome, Janice.
It's great to be here, Brenda.
Okay, this one I'm looking forward to because I want to learn how to read a nutritional label. In medical school, we had one class on nutrition. So let's start with some of the fun stuff.
Okay.
Tilapia, fish. I bought it in the refrigerator section. Go over the label with me.
Okay. Well, like with any label, the part I like to emphasize to people is to start at the top of the label. Look at what the serving size indicates. That's going to be different than maybe a portion size that you see inside the package. But the serving size is what all the nutritional facts are based on. So make sure you know exactly what that is. So we have here a standard serving is 4 ounces. But right next to it, it shows this package is 6 ounces. So you're going to be fooled right away if you just think, oh, what's in here is a serving. It's not. Their serving references are to the standard serving that they indicate. So first you have the total calories right beneath that. And so, for example, for this you have 130 calories per 4-ounce serving. That's pretty good.
But it's 6 ounces.
But this is 6 ounces, so you
it's
have
not
to count
130
for a larger serving. Then you'll see the calories from fat. So it'll say 60 calories from fat, 80 calories from fat, however many that is. It depends on the food.
Can we go back to the serving size? I'm just curious why, I think when people buy a product, they think that that's the serving. So then why give the serving information on something different than what actually is inside the package?
You know, it's done for different reasons. It's done because, well, they know that people are careful about calories, so they may not want to eat anything with more than 150 calories per serving, but it doesn't mean that they can't package more than that. As long as they label it with a reference to their serving size, they're okay. But yes, things are marketed very brilliantly, and it's not always what it seems.
So if you didn't know to look at that, you would think you're eating 130 calories.
Exactly. So you have to look at that serving size. And I tell people, get out your measuring cups, even get a little scale to make sure, that you're serving out what you think you're getting.
Just those little scales at the store?
Just little postage scales. You can find those very easily. If you're just trying to make sure you're eating the calories that you're seeing on the package, if you're becoming more conscious of that. Then we have a listing of the fat. Total fat is all fats all together. This has 6 grams per 4-ounce serving. But now we're seeing that fat is also listed in terms of saturated fat and trans fat. And those are important numbers to see because it's the saturated and the trans fat in our diet that's more likely to raise our blood cholesterol levels and to increase our risk of heart disease. So, preferably as little as possible of trans fat and no more than just a very little bit of saturated fat in our diet. Remember, saturated fat comes from things like meat, fish, and chicken to a point, but we get a great deal of it in pastries and fried foods. So be very careful with that.
Okay, so low on the saturated, low on the trans.
Right, exactly. Then we have a listing of cholesterol. Cholesterol only comes from animal products. You don't get cholesterol from peanut butter or avocados or plant foods. So it's only from a food that has a mother or a face, which is kind of a weird way to remember it, but cholesterol is only from animal products. So this lists here for per serving 44 milligrams of cholesterol. Sodium, that's a big one to look out for because even in foods that we don't think would be high in sodium can be very high. For example, for sodium for this particular food, we have 268 milligrams of sodium. It's not the fish. This fish is pre-seasoned. So that pre-seasoning, which is very common in a lot of meat, fish, and chicken dishes, can really boost up your sodium intake. And we recommend that most people don't have much more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. And that's easily overdone by 3 to 5 times in the typical American diet. So we'll tell you per serving how much sodium you're getting. Then we have total carbohydrates. And again, we have to really pay attention to this. A lot of people I work with, for example, who have diabetes, only look at the sugars. And they say, well, it has no sugar in it it must be okay. That's not what you want to look at. It's actually the total amount of carbohydrate that includes sugars and other carbohydrates that are found that affect your blood sugar. So sugar, yes, account for that.
Sugar is a carbohydrate. I think that's what people don't realize.
Right.
Very simple.
But you want to see the total carbohydrates if you're looking at something to control your blood sugar.
Right.
And again, it'll show you how much fiber. Now, this has no fiber, and that's understandable because you don't get fiber from meat, fish, or chicken, or dairy foods. But you do get fiber from plant foods. So that's why we emphasize whole grain foods like whole wheat bread, whole grain cereals, to get the fiber that's very, very important
to complement this meal.
Right, exactly.
Fish, a complex
That's why you don't eat a big plate of fish. You eat fish, some brown rice, some veggies. That's why we want to see a variety of foods.
Okay.
And then farther down the line, you see the vitamin and mineral content. They typically list vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, and iron. And again, this is not a great source of these nutrients, but that's okay. Other foods you eat are.
And you know it's not a great source because the percentage is, well,
zero. Right, exactly.
On this particular,
but
2%
you know, on
iron.
the same plate, you'll get, maybe you'll have some steamed vegetables, including carrots. You may have some milk to drink with this, so you'll get your calcium somewhere else. And then you'll have the ingredient label, which will actually tell you exactly the ingredients that go into this food. And they're typically listed in order of the weight of these ingredients that contribute to this food. So fortunately, since this is fish, the first ingredient is fish.
Good sign.
It is real fish. And then you have the marinades that are included. That includes
all our salt.
Olive oil, salt is right up there, some spices, other flavorings, and again, a lot of times these days, more and more foods are listed as whether they contain certain ingredients that may cause people problems who have allergies, like wheat or nuts
or
gluten. Exactly. So nutrition labels are great. They're very informative. But sometimes it's a little tough to make sense of them.
Right. Let's do another one.
Okay.
Pistachios. I like pistachios.
Pistachios are terrific. And these are a wonderful, healthy food. You've got all kinds of protein, fiber, nutrients, healthy fats. On this label, again, you got to look at the serving size. And this is serving size. You get a little more detail because these are pistachios in the shell. So the serving size is a half cup in the shell or a quarter cup without the shell.
Okay.
So, you know, the shells
that was
take
a good
up
label
volume. So they have to really tell you whether it's with or without the shell. And on here, again, it runs through pretty much the same types of information, the protein, the calories, the fat, the carbohydrate. I want to make a point about a healthy food such as nuts because it may seem like, oh, that's got a lot of fat. That
How much fat does it have?
And per serving, you've got total fat 14 grams out of 170 calories. That sounds like a lot. However, nuts are one of those foods that have a lot of the healthy fats. And so a small serving of nuts for a snack or sprinkled on a salad, you know, that's a small part of your daily intake. And again, the fat found in nuts is very healthy for you.
What does it say on there? What type of fat?
Well, it says pretty much most of the fat. It's got 1 gram of saturated fat, no trans fats. But it has the healthy fat, 7 grams of the monounsaturated fat. That's great for our blood cholesterol level and great for our heart disease risk.
So look for those ratios.
Exactly.
Look for the monosaturated.
4 grams of polyunsaturated fat. But the thing I want to recommend too, even though it's full of healthy fat, it's a great healthy food, it's still a very high calorie food. So just because it's healthy doesn't mean you want to sit there and eat the whole bag in front of the TV. Because you're going to eat excess
and that's
calories.
Nuts. You want to eat more and more.
Oh, it's great. But again, if you can portion them out, you're doing okay. Now, these are salted. You can find nuts that are unsalted, you know, if you're trying to keep the salt intake down in your diet. So, but
the other thing I noticed on this label, it brought into some of the vitamins also.
Right. Again, nuts being a plant food and a very concentrated source of nutrition because they're the beginning of a plant, they're going to have a very high amount of great vitamins and minerals. For example, magnesium, manganese, B vitamins, even phosphorus, copper, a lot of what we call these micronutrients that are very important. They have 20% or greater of our daily value of these great nutrients that do all kinds of things for our body in just a quarter cup serving. So again, that's why I love to recommend nuts as part of your daily diet, because of all these great things that are contained in just a small serving.
That would be a perfect snack for your kid in a little tiny baggie, you know, measure it out, put it in, and think of all those vitamins they're getting.
Exactly. And you know, I like when nuts are packed in their shells because just eating nuts out of their shells, it helps you to pace your eating. So you're less likely to overeat. Yep. So great choice here.
Another one of my favorite foods is pretzels. Can we go over the food label on the pretzels?
Yes, absolutely. You know, pretzels are a great healthy snack. The problem is, first of all, is if you're eating them right out of the bag, you're missing the whole portion control thing. So I want to make sure that you know to read the label and know what your portion size is. So, of course, like with the other foods, we have the serving size, which is 30 grams, about 28 sticks. So maybe you'll count out 28 sticks of pretzels, maybe you won't. Typically, what I like to recommend is people just use a handful as a portion control. It's easy, and that's typically about an ounce or so. You've got the calories per serving, of course, that's about 110. And for a snack, that's not too bad. The problem is, again, people eat them straight out of the bag and lose track.
Eat half the bag. And
So what I typically say is put them in a little dish, put them on a napkin, and then put the bag away, and then go have your snack. So that's an easy way to portion control. Pretzels, the nice thing about them, they're very low in fat, both total fat, saturated fat. They are a carbohydrate source, so if you're being careful about your carbs, then remember, it's the total carbs that count, not just the sugar. And they have a few grams of protein because they are a grain food. And again, they're not really especially high in many vitamins or minerals, but because they are made from enriched flour, they are a significant iron source. You get 4% of your RDA for iron in a serving of pretzels. So that's kind of surprising. The big thing that you want to realize in pretzels, though, is that they are a high sodium snack. They've got 300 milligrams of sodium, which is pretty obvious because they're salted on the outside. So again, you know, a serving of pretzels may not be all that bad, but watch the salt intake for the rest of your day because that may very well add up.
Here's a snack. I don't. We started from healthy.
We're going downhill.
Cheez-Its. My kids love them.
Kids really love them, and they're cute, and they have great, bright labels.
I can teach them how to read with it.
That's right. They're very attractive. They're easy to give to kids. But again, the serving size, again, 26 crackers. You got to be careful of the serving size. 150 calories. These are foods that are very easily eaten too, because they're sort of addictive. You know, the more they have, the more they want. And again, they're not low fat. You have 7 grams of fat, 2 grams of saturated fat in the serving. Not much cholesterol. They're another big hit of sodium, and especially with little kids. They start learning early what they are going to be wanting to have. Their taste buds are trained early. So giving little kids a lot of salty foods, they're going to want more.
Their whole life they're going to want.
Exactly. Because your taste buds become desensitized over a time. Not a good source of fiber. Again, they're made from refined flour, so it's not a good whole grain food at all. A little bit of protein. But the thing is, again, it's the sodium, it's the portion size that you really want to be careful of. Every so often a little snack of this, but for me, I wouldn't be keeping this in my house for little kids because it's just too easy to grab this instead of a healthier snack like a piece of fruit.
Or apple, right.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, now here we go.
Okay, Fritos.
How about some Fritos?
Well, I'm just going to say it's a good thing that this is portion control.
Exactly. That's why.
Because
but it's
again,
such a small portion.
It's a small portion. This is
but
tiny.
That's a typical portion.
But just take a look at this. Of course, there's 1 serving per container. Thank goodness. But just 1 serving, that's 160 calories.
Right. We went from the pretzels at 110, these to 130, and these to 160.
And just in this small serving, you've got 10 grams of total fat. That's like 2 pats of butter worth of fat in here. And you've got saturated fat, you've got a little bit of the healthy fat, the monounsaturated fat, 160 milligrams of sodium. Again, you know, these things add up. And these types of foods that are made with both salt and fat, we get easily used to it. So the more we have, the more we want. And it is nice that it's portion controlled. Otherwise, people may be eating 2 or 3 times this portion from a larger bag.
Right.
So that does help. But again, for such a small serving size, you've got a lot of calories and a lot of sodium.
We talk about nutritional content.
Right,
poor.
Right. Not that great. You know, again, this isn't something you eat for good nutrition. I would say maybe once in a while if you have to. But I'd rather see people have a small handful of nuts and a piece of fruit.
Right. How about the fruit snacks?
Oh gosh, you know, the fruit snacks, this is a problem.
Janice.
You know, it's fruit. Actually, what it says on here is fruit flavored snacks. So you want to be careful. Fruit doesn't mean fruit flavored. I've never seen an apple flavored apple. You know? So you want to have something, again, that's more in its natural state. The problem with this, again, even though its serving size is controlled, 1 pouch is 80 calories, but you don't have the fruit nutrition in there. You don't have the fiber. You don't have the water. Remember, apples, bananas, other fruits are 90% water. It takes a very small amount of time to eat this. And the problem, too, is because they're gummy snacks, they stick to your teeth, and dentists don't like that. They're much more likely to cause tooth decay, whereas fresh fruit does the opposite. So again, in the nutritional label, you've got total carbohydrates, 19 grams of total carbs. That's about 3 teaspoons of sugar. You know, you can easily get in here. You have a little protein, you know, not much of anything else actually. It's mostly all sugar. In here. So even though they're cute, they say fruit flavored, this isn't the greatest snack I would give to a child. For one of my patients who had diabetes who suddenly had low blood sugar, this would be great. And that's what I would use it for, but this is not a snack that I would recommend for a child.
Twinkies?
All American Twinkies.
I grew up on Twinkies.
I did too. And again, Twinkies, you don't buy them for their nutrition, you buy them for fun. And we have to realize that, you know, not everything is reflected in numbers. If you have a special occasion, you know, once in a while, a nice after dinner treat, Twinkies are great. The great thing about them is they're portion controlled. And on the back, here's our label. We have 1 Twinkie, 10 in this container, so you know how many you're getting. 1 Twinkie is 150 calories. So really, for an after-dinner dessert, 150 calories is not too bad, as long as you stay with 1. It can be worked in. I would recommend it. Maybe have a Twinkie a couple times a week, but the problem is if they're sitting in your house, if they're sitting in your cupboard or on the counter, it's very hard to resist it.
It's not a dessert, it's a snack.
Yeah, it's a snack. So keep it as something special and work it in, account for it. As far as the label goes, they're high in fat. You've got total fat of almost 5 grams of fat. Fortunately, they're making a lot of these kinds of foods without trans fats these days. It does have 2.5 grams of saturated fat, though. It has a little bit of cholesterol, so it's probably made with some sort of animal product. You know, surprisingly, it's pretty high in sodium. A lot of pastries, pies, and other things are high in sodium, but it's sort of masked by the sugar that's in there. You've got 27 grams of carbohydrate, so that's quite significant because, of course, you've got 18 grams of sugar in there. And again, in terms of fiber, you're not getting much fiber in Twinkies. And I've never seen a whole wheat Twinkie before either.
Maybe
I don't think they'd make them. Not a significant source of anything other than maybe a little iron because, again, flour is enriched with iron. And, you know, it's pretty straightforward. You get what you see here. So remember, this is sometimes a special food, a special treat, not an everyday food.
Well, thanks. Wow.
Sure.
Fantastic summary on nutritional labels. So, well, thanks for joining us. Please tune in again to My Weight World TV so we can help you reach your goals with our community. I'm Dr. Brenda, MD, and thanks for watching.